Matter of ASRC Federal System Solutions, LLC. April 12, 2022. ASRC Federal System Solutions, LLC, AFSS, protests the award of a contract to RSi-QuantiTech JV, LLC, RSi-QT, under request for proposals, issued by the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, for multidisciplinary engineering technician and trade support services at the George C. Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. AFSS challenges nearly every aspect of the agency's evaluation of proposals and source selection decision, and contends that NASA conducted misleading and unequal discussions. AFSS also argues that RSi-QT gained an unfair competitive advantage based on its employment of a former NASA official. While we do not address all the protesters' arguments in this decision, we have considered each argument. We discuss the principal allegations below. Unfair competitive advantage. The protester alleges that the award to RSi-QT was tainted by a disqualifying organizational conflict of interest, OCI, due to the unfair competitive advantage the company received from proposing a former NASA official from the MSFC as a key person. The contracting officer investigated. Based on this investigation, the contracting officer concluded that this person did not have access to competitively useful, non-public information. AFSS challenges the contracting officer's conclusions. We see no merit in the protesters' contentions. In our view, AFSS's general disagreement with NASA's findings does not provide the hard facts needed for our office to find that an OCI exists or conclude that the agency's evaluation was unreasonable. Discussions. AFSS contends that NASA engaged in misleading discussions with AFSS regarding its past performance. Because we find that the agency's discussions with AFSS may have been misleading, we now turn to the issue of prejudice. Here, we find that AFSS was not prejudiced by the agency's conduct of discussions. Compliance with solicitation requirements. AFSS alleges that RSi-QT's proposal failed to comply with material RFP requirements and is therefore ineligible for award. The protester contends that RSi-QT did not provide a valid joint venture (JV) agreement. The RFP was issued in February 2020 and included a requirement about the SBA approval of joint venture agreements reflecting the SBA's regulation in place at the time. This regulation was recently amended to effectively eliminate the requirement for SBA approval of joint venture agreements before the award of an 8A contract. Based on the above, we are unable to conclude that RSi-QT lacked valid JV and mentor-protege agreements. We deny this protest ground. Cost evaluation and discussions. AFSS next protests the total compensation plan and cost realism evaluations and argues that the agency engaged in misleading and unequal discussions about cost. We find the methodology used by NASA unobjectionable and conclude that the agency's cost realism analysis was a reasonable exercise of its judgment. With respect to discussions, AFSS contends that NASA misled it into raising its proposed cost by $15 million while not providing a similar instruction to RSi-QT. NASA states that the upward adjustment of AFSS's proposed cost was necessary for the proposed cost to be deemed realistic. Based on our review of the record, we see no merit in AFSS's allegations that the discussions were misleading, unequal, or that the protester was coerced into raising its cost by $15 million. Mission suitability. AFSS further asserts that NASA failed to assign multiple strengths to its mission suitability proposal. The record demonstrates that NASA evaluated AFSS's proposed innovations and improvements, and that while two were credited as conferring additional benefits to the agency, others were only considered adequate. We find no basis to question the reasonableness of the agency's evaluation in this regard. Best value determination. Finally, the protester challenges the agency's best value determination. Because we find no merit to the protester's challenges to the agency's evaluation of proposals, we see no basis to sustain the protester's derivative challenge to the agency's best value decision. The protest is denied.